Time for sound design. In this video, I'm gonna deconstruct the track I made entirely with the MC-303 groovebox from Roland. When making this track, I asked myself the question, is there music left in the MC-303? This is a part 2. A couple of months ago, I made a video where I asked myself the same question. I made an ambient soundscape by using sounds from this box with MIDI from Ableton. I basically did the same thing again. So I multi-tracked from this box into Ableton, having MIDI in Ableton, driving this sound recording layer for layer into Ableton, and then in Ableton doing some sound design and also some editing of the sounds in order to create a track that sounds kind of contemporary with sounds from this box from the late 90s. So if you're not familiar with this one, the MC-303, there's a link in the description, but it's basically the first groovebox from Roland. It has a bunch of synth sounds, drum sounds, and you can edit them in a very basic way. And there's a sequencer, so you can arrange tracks and sequences, but I don't use that for this video. So here I just use MIDI from Ableton to drive, and I take out the sounds and then record them in Ableton and layer them into a composition. And then I came up with this track. I'll play you a little bit now. At the end of this video, I'll play you the entire sequence. All right, so I will deconstruct the track I made. I will hook this thing up so I can play you the original sounds, and then I can play you what I did to them in Ableton as well. So here in Ableton, you can see the session that I have. The track that I made is in total 16 bars, so it's not a full track, but it's a start. So it's an intro of 4, then there's a first part of 4, second part of 4, and then a third part of 4 bars. And as you can see, there are 12 audio tracks, and then all the yellow tracks are MIDI tracks. So that's the MIDI that I sent through the MC-303, and I recorded the audio back into Ableton. So for the first layer, I used from Bank 5 the synth pads on the MC-303, sound number 16. Which is called Fantasia, which is from a DX7, I believe, synthesizer. Or inspired by that at least. And then I can show you what I created. So I created in D minor this little motif that sounds like this. But in the track you actually don't hear that. So what I did is that I reversed it. And that is the intro of my track. So on to sound number 2. It's from the same bank, number 19, the echo bells. And then here I did very short notes. So basically 1 30 seconds, a D, and then later an F. So the original sounds like this. And what I did, I used the attack on the MC-303, so I turned it down. So you really get only the first portion of the sound, and it sounds like this. So it's a very subtle sound, but these kind of little sounds really add up to the entire thing. All right, sound number 3. So after that, I added some drums, and I used the 808 kit. This is kit number 2. And I created a little pattern. Quite minimal. And then what I did is I added some roar effect, and I reversed it. So that's on the first layer. And then on the second layer, I pitched up 1 octave. So here, pitch plus 12. And I did a low cut and an auto pen. So this is almost more like a percussive layer. I take the kick out and I transform it into something that sounds sort of not real. And then for the main part, I used the forward version. I put the pitch at -9, so you get a really deep sound. So it sounds like this on its own. I did a bit of high shelving, toned down the high frequencies. And then together with the other two layers, it sounds like this. So basically what I did is with programming one basic drum beat on the MC-303 through the MIDI from Ableton, recording that one loop and copying it twice and having three different versions of that loop playing at the same time. Two of them play at the same time. Moving on to the next sound, and that is from Bank 6, sound number 13, the Pizzicato strings, and they sound like this. So very short. What I programmed in MIDI are chords. So as you can see, 4 bars, 4 chords with a little embellishments here at the end of the second bar and the fourth bar. And it sounds like this. So very basic. Then I did a low cut EQ and a delay and a redux to kind of make it a bit more lo-fi. And then it sounds like this. So quite subtle. The next sound is a bass sound, and that is from Bank 3, sound number 1. These are the acoustic basses or the bass guitars. So quite a vanilla sound, but that's kind of what I wanted. I don't want it to be too complex. It follows the chords, so very basic, sounds like this. And since I record a stereo out from the MC-303, I put a utility here that I put on mono because it's a bass sound, so I want it to be mono. And then together with the pizzicato strings, it sounds kind of nice. At this point I had a lot of short sounds, so I want something longer, like a drone kind of sound. And I used from Bank number 16, sound number 5, it's from the brass category. So this kind of obviously artificial brass sounds, but what I want to do is just hold it so you only hear the attack once. And that's basically what I did for 8 bars, and that is then this track. So it's playing a B flat with a bit of reverb and a low cut EQ. It kind of fades out, but it still sustains. So there are 3 more layers now that I want to discuss, and we get kind of into the more textural part of this track. So we have all the melodic stuff, we have all the drums now and the percussion, but I want to add a little bit of ear candy and a little bit of transition sounds as well. So the first one out of these 3 textural sounds is from Bank 12, the chromatic percussion number 4, the Marimba, which sounds like this. Then with the attack very short, the envelope. And then I just play short notes after each other. But that sounds like this. Also play them at different velocities, as you can see here, to create a bit more variation. So this is really like a texture, and then with some delay on it. And stereo spread, so that's this parameter here. Offset of the right channel. You kind of create this continuous texture in the background. So that's this sound. The second sound from the texture category is a FX. It's from the FX category, Bank 19, sound number 1. This is really to transition from the third part to the first part again. So the only thing I did is some automation to fade it in more. These kind of effect sounds can sound very corny and sort of played out, but when you use them sparingly in this kind of like in the background of your track, it can still work. And then the last piece is from Bank number 9, sound number 7, which is vinyl noise. That sounds like this, as you expect. So I programmed one long note, 16 bars in Ableton, and recorded the entire bit. And then to create a bit more variation, I used a LFO on the utility to randomly change the amount of the volume and also put a low cut EQ afterwards. So this is really just in the background. So yeah, that's all the sounds, all the layers that I took out of this machine from the late 90s into Ableton, and with some sound design and some reversing and some pitching up and down, but fairly basic stuff sound design wise. And that kind of shows you that these old machines that are not maybe the most intuitive to program, they still contain sounds that are completely usable. And now this track is, or this start of a track is made entirely with sounds from this. But of course, if you combine this with other synthesizers or with Ableton instruments, this becomes even more useful. So these old beasts, they're fun, they're limited, but they have certain quality to it. I will now play you the entire 16 bars that I have and repeat some of it. It's not a finished track, but this is a good start. It has plenty of different elements that I can build on. It has melodic elements, it has percussion and drums and textural layers. So the next step would be to build this out to a full 3 minutes, 4 minutes composition. Let me know if you still use the MC-303, if you have one at home. What do you use it for? Do you use it for specific sounds? Do you create entire tracks with the onboard sequencer, or do you use MIDI from your DAW? Let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. Keep making music and see you in the next one.